Discussion item is on Board of Supervisors, item 19, keep the Transnet promise, and the related item, air pollution control district, item number 1. This item is brought forward by Chairwoman Jacob and Vice Chairwoman Slater-Price. We have several speakers to this matter.
Vice Chair Slater-Price, would you like to start off?
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I'd like to thank you for working together on this item. We brought this item forward because we feel that there is a danger of the promise of Transnet being violated here. The Transnet extension was constructed in such a way that there was a formula set forward as to how the funds would be spent, and that went a long way toward getting the item approved by the public. There now has been a threat to this formula that is coming forward because there's been some pullback in funding for transit from the state. And because of that, the transit operations, the operators want to come forward and they want to change the formula in some way that would take money away from roads and transfer it into transit operations, for which it was never intended. This ballot initiative required a 2/3 vote of the public in order to pass, and it just barely got the 2/3 vote. And the reason the public went ahead and voted for it was because they saw the formula in place and they believed that the Board of Supervisors and SANDAG and the other entities would honor that commitment. In addition, there has now been a suggestion that we raise the vehicle license fee here in San Diego County and to use additional funds that would be raised for transit operation purposes. It's my understanding that the additional $2 that could be raised, which I don't think the board has any intention of doing, that $2 would not be eligible for the use for which it is being proposed, that being transit operations. The cost to operate transit is quite high, and the problem with transit has always been that the operations fall short. So it's my feeling that if really the transit operations and the transit operators want to come forward with their own initiative that would detail for the public how transit monies would be spent, both for operations and for capital projects, that should be their own separate initiative. But we do not believe, and Chairwoman Jacob and I do not believe, that it is in the best interest of this county or the jurisdictions therein to violate the public trust and to make any move whatever to change this formula in this way.
Thank you, Supervisor. I'll hold my comments until after the public has a chance to speak.
Thank you. I'll call the first speaker in favor, Angelica Villagrana.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is Angelica Villagrana, and I represent the San Diego Regional Chamber of Commerce. And I'm here today in support of recommendation 1 of your board letter, which says to oppose the transfer of Transnet highway and local street and road dollars to transit operations. Adequate transportation is key to the San Diego Chamber of Commerce, our 3,000 members and their 400,000 plus employees. And the business community worked hard to ensure that Transnet extension passed in 2004. We also believe, like Vice Chair Slater said, that an important component for the voters was that the ballot language spelled out a list of specific projects that would be funded under the measure. And therefore, the San Diego Chamber believes it would be an inappropriate action, I should say, to shift Transnet tax dollars that are earmarked for highway improvements to transit operations. We agree that public transit is a necessity for our future, and it is important that we embrace it. However, we also believe it is dangerous to break faith with the voters, and the Chamber encourages you to oppose such a shift of funds. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have an organized presentation. Duncan McFetridge, Joni Halpern, Carl Meyer. All three speakers do need to address the board with substance. and you'll have 15 minutes on the clock. You'll need to self-regulate your time and complete your comments before the 15 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Board of Supervisors. I don't know that we will be using the entire 15 minutes. However, I think the first item about hunger was a great introduction to this issue, because 211 is a way of symbolizing a crisis, the economic crisis, as it manifests itself in hunger, increased hunger in this county. Well, the same crisis is affecting transit. This crisis is broad and deep, and we believe the way that this item was hurried onto this agenda does not do proper service to the public good here. Now, to lead off, I would say that this has been misnamed and misconceived. You start off with this term, promise, keep the promise. Madam Chair, what exactly is this promise? Your promise to build roads and to underfund transit? Who's that a promise to? Is that a promise to the developers, the sprawl developers of this county that are ruining the resources, land resources, that are causing global warming, that are undercutting the national energy policy, that are undercutting your commitment to meet greenhouse gas limits? So, as a matter of fact, Madam Supervisor Slater, I think we could say exactly the opposite of what you're saying here. Now, let us, so you say you're keeping faith with the people. Let's take a look at what the people want. The most authoritative poll ever in this county by the Public Policy Institute and San Diego Dialogue, this is the most authoritative. Here you have three interrelated items. Look at the second one. The first one, of course, concerns all political activity, reduce corruption. But look at the second one. Build a superior public transit system. 85% of likely voters. Now, Madam Chair, you keep repeating this figure, 3%. There's only 3% ridership. That is a mischaracterization. That is a regional figure, yes, but it mischaracterizes local communities, some of which have ridership as high as 20%. In this economic crisis, that operation is vital to jobs, families, schools, services, absolutely vital. So, what have you given the people? Next slide, please. Okay, here's your report card. 56% of your constituents have seriously considered moving away from San Diego County for two reasons: congestion and housing. Public transit, a good transit infrastructure, is absolutely essential to meeting congestion targets and affordable housing. And you are sitting here today also as part of the Air Pollution Control Board, okay? You know what this motion before you today violates your mission as Air Pollution Control Board members. And let me remind you what the first mission statement is here. Your duty is to focus your efforts on protecting the people and the environment from the harmful effects of pollution, most of which come from, of course, the automobile. So, how can you possibly say you are keeping your promise to the people when you're violating the air pollution control mission, when you're violating the intent, the voter intent, which is, next slide, please. Can we get that in a, and while she's bringing that up, oh, here it is. Madam Supervisor Slater, you said the people looked at this real closely and they vote, and you have a great promise and faith here